The second leading cause of household hazards in the United States is that of poisoning. Every day, over 300 children in the United States, ages birth to 19, are treated in an emergency department. And 2 children die as a result of being chemically poisoned. So what I'd like to do is talk about poisoning in general, and then we'll talk about a specific type of poisoning that is problematic. What are some ways that you can prevent poisoning? Before we had the child-proof caps, we used to have a lot more kids poisoning. But even today, with child-proof caps, we still get a significant number of people who are poisoned. Just a couple suggestions to try to prevent poisoning. One is lock any type of poison or medications up in some cabinet. Keep medicines, toxic products such as cleaning solutions in their original packaging where children can't see or get to them. Also, be careful of products not thought of as poisons. There are some things that we don't think of as poisons, but they really are. For example, children's vitamins are an example. Laundry and dishwasher detergent, especially the pods that they can put in their mouth, but even the liquid. Pest and rodent baits, disinfectants, fertilizers, weed killers, insect repellent, cosmetics, toilet bowl cleaner, kerosene, and even golf balls. Now you say golf balls, you think of maybe they could choke on golf balls, but they actually can be poisoned by them. Maybe here's the scenario. You put your bag in a closet, and let's say the ball bag is partially open. Now that the closet door is open, a young child sees the balls in the bag, goes into the closet, gets the ball out, licks it, puts it in their mouth, and now they might have some poisoning. Think of what poisons the ball is in contact with. Pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers. All right, and let's not forget the detergent to get those stains off the ball. Okay, so golf balls are in contact with a lot of chemicals and could potentially be a poison source, something we wouldn't even think of typically as adults. Also, be aware of the National Poison Control number, the 800-222-1222. That number will provide you with information about how to deal with any poison. Sometimes you have to be very careful of even the treatments that are found on the labels. Oftentimes these labels, they have either treatment information that won't do anything, or it may even cause greater harm. So if you know what the product is, call the National Poison Control Center number, and they will give you the latest treatment for it. But do read the label. I mean, the label will give you the information. It's also going to tell you what the chemical is. Also, safely dispose of any unused, unneeded, or expired prescription drugs and over-the-counter drugs, vitamins, and supplements. You know, we all have those outdated medications, whether they're prescription or over-the-counter, that, you know, we buy a cough syrup, we use half the bottle or 3/4 of the bottle, then we're okay for a while, we get sick again, and you don't even remember what you have, so you buy another one, but that old one's still sitting there. It's true of not only cough syrups, but lots of other medications and products in the house. There's even what's called a national drug take-back event in some local areas where dispose of them. You can dispose of them by mixing them with coffee grounds or kitty litter, throw them away. Also, they have these national take-back events where you can actually drop them off, and they'll be disposed of. One other type of poisoning that I want to address is something that is very pernicious because we don't always realize that we're being exposed to it, and that's lead. I want to talk about lead poisoning in the home, and I want to talk a little bit in reference to people being landlords and renters, where people are often exposed to lead through older homes. I want to talk here about what lead is, what are some of the dangers of lead, Also talk a little bit about some requirements for disclosure, so that if you're a tenant, you should receive the disclosure statement. If you're a landlord, you should give it. And there's also, in addition to a disclosure statement, there's a Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home pamphlet that is available. First of all, lead. What is lead? Lead is a metal. It's a heavy metal that occurs naturally in the Earth's crust, but we also use it a lot in human activities such as mining, and it's found in the burning of fossil fuels and manufacturing. And so it's very widespread, relatively speaking. Lead was also an ingredient that was used in paints and gasoline. And it's still used in batteries, solder. It's found in some older pipes, also pottery, roofing materials, and some cosmetics. And also it can be found even in things like canned goods that come from foreign countries into the United States. All right, so where is it found? Again, it can be found in paint and pigments, in water pipes. Usually the lead is not found in water as a source water. However, it gets into the water in the home through corrosion of plumbing materials. Homes that were built before 1986 are the most likely to have lead pipes, fixtures, and solder. The most common problem is that of brass or chrome-plated brass faucets and fixtures, which can leach significant amounts of lead into the water. And usually the biggest problem is hot water. So as the hot water comes through these lead-based pipes, these old pipes, a lead will leach into the water. Cold water is a little less of a problem. All right. As I said, it can be found in some canned goods from foreign countries, especially. It can be found in the soil. The major problem in homes is peeling paint, chipping paint. It eventually creates dust. Also, kids can actually ingest the pieces. And as I said, cosmetics, pottery, and some toys. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 24 million homes in the U.S. have lead-based paint issues. And when children are exposed to lead, they're at risk for anything related to neurological problems. So they'll have learning disabilities, behavioral problems, seizures, comas, and even death. There are some fact sheets like this one that the Environmental Protection Agency and the HUD puts out. Again, explaining what I just said, some of the effects on it. But again, the effects are not just limited to kids. They can affect adults, and usually it's anything related to neurological functioning. All right? And they also get into, in this fact sheet, what is required under the law by sellers and landlords. All right? And typically, the landlords and the sellers have to disclose if there's any potential lead available. Again, it's usually in houses before 1986, but the paints are actually in houses before 1978. That's when they stopped putting paint, lead-based paint, making it. But you might have old layers that are on there. All right. All right. So what is this disclosure regulation? We're trying to get the word out to landlords that they should be disclosing potential lead exposure in the homes. What we find is typically the ones that real estate agents own and lease and rent out, you usually get the disclosure statement. However, the problem is with some unscrupulous landlords that either they're not aware of it or they just dismiss it, or they really don't care about it, and they really don't bother to give the disclosure statements. So all homes before 1978 for sale or lease should have a disclosure statement. Also, any publicly and privately owned housing. And what's required is they should give out the free educational pamphlet, a warning statement in the contract that you could be exposed to lead, that there's lead available, and any known lead-based paint hazards or any lead-based paint that's present in the home. There should also be an opportunity for testing. Here's an example of a disclosure form. Again, there are numerous ones on the internet that you can get. but it basically is giving the warning statement and some check-off places, also lines where you can actually fill in what you know to be a problem, and then some check-off places and signatures that people have seen it and so forth. All right. There are some exemptions under the law. Any post-1977 housing are exempted from this. Any zero-bedroom units where the residential dwelling and the living areas are not separated from the sleeping area, that's excluded. Any housing exclusively for the elderly or disabled. Also, if the property is certified as lead-based paint-free, or there's been remediation, so lead has actually been removed and that's been certified. All right. Any unoccupied property pending demolition is exempt, and any non-residential part of the property is exempt. All right. Also, any rehabilitation or maintenance activities that do not disturb painted surfaces, and any time there's some kind of emergency action that needs to be done, they're exempt. All right. One of the requirements is that landlords and people who are selling homes provide this this pamphlet that's called "Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home." And what's nice about this pamphlet, it gets into all of the effects on children. There's an opportunity for blood testing. In fact, most pediatricians, they usually give a little survey, and if anybody writes on the survey that they might be living in conditions that seem to indicate that the child might be exposed to lead, they do some automatic blood testing of lead levels. All right, but it talks about the ability to get that test, and it also talks about remediation of the home. So this is a really good pamphlet. That gets in. It's about a 19-page pamphlet that explains ways you can protect yourself and the problem with lead and where you can be exposed. Again, it's something we don't want everyone to be paranoid about, but you can be exposed and not even know it. All right. Also, some websites like this Pennsylvania Housing Search can give you some resources about lead-based places. Okay, so what are some recommendations? Ways that you can protect your family from lead. If you suspect you have lead-based paint in your home, get some advice on safe removal from any housing and urban development authorities. You can also go to the Pennsylvania State website for lead. Do not remove the lead yourself. You really need to have somebody who knows what they're doing. You might want to go to your city health department if you have a local health department. Talk to them. There may be some money available for lead abatement and lead removal. Keep your home as dust-free as possible. Again, if the lead starts flaking and you get dust, if you keep removing that dust, you're going to be less exposed. Have everyone wash their hands before eating. So if they do have some dust on their hands, they're not getting it on food or eating implements. Have everyone wash their hands before eating, and also throw out any old painted toys if you don't know whether it contains lead or not. If these are old toys, they might have lead in it. Get rid of them. Also, again, if you have any questions about your child being exposed, get a blood lead test. If your water has tested high in lead, consider installing an effective filtering device or switch to bottled water for drinking and cooking. Clean the floor, windowsills, door frames with some solution of what's called powdered automatic dishwashing detergent called trisodium phosphate detergent. That'll help mitigate the lead a little bit, or some lead-specific cleaning product. Teach children not to put any sand, dirt, or paint chips in their mouth. Also avoid any canned goods from foreign countries because some of them still may have lead in them. Do not store any liquors or vinegar-based salad dressings in lead crystal decanters for a long period of time. We're finding some of the crystal, nice crystal, even may have lead in it. It might be lead-based, and the lead can leach out. A balanced diet that includes adequate levels of vitamin C, iron, zinc, calcium, and phosphorus can help reduce the absorption of lead. cover any old paint, layers of paint that you might have in your house. If the paint is on tight without many chips, you can paint over it, and that will reduce the exposure. There's other things you can do, like paneling, drywall, and even an encapsulation, which is very similar to very thick coat of paint. All right? And then sometimes people actually bring lead from their workplace. Wear protective clothing on the job and equipment. Also, any jobs or hobbies where you're at risk of lead exposure, instead of bringing it home. For example, some places like shooting ranges, stained glass, construction, auto and radiator repairs, artists, sometimes it's in the paint, battery and glass manufacturers, lead smelters, painters, plumbers, and others. They may actually be exposed to lead. They should make sure they're wearing protective clothing and equipment, and then leave them at work. Even try to get a shower before you come home so you get it out of your hair and things like that. Get it off your body so you're not bringing it to your home. Especially do not shake out work clothes in your house and so forth. Also, use only cold water for cooking or drinking. Hot water is likely to have higher levels of lead than cold in older homes built before 1986. If you rent, ask your landlord, especially if you see some problems, ask the landlord to remediate them. They may be able to have access to places that have funding or contractors that would be able to do that. The other thing is, renters and landlords should be aware that there are penalties for violating the lead disclosure rule that could result in civil or criminal penalties. Real estate agents, landlords, or sellers can even be fined up to $10,000 per violation, or costs of up to 3 times the amount of damages to tenants or buyers. So we're really trying to get the word out. If you're a landlord, be aware that there are some penalties if you do not do something about the lead. We want to try to avoid problems for both tenants, but also avoid problems for the landlords. There are some numerous sources about lead if you want to get further information. One site that we've developed at East Stroudsburg University is at quantum.esu.edu/lead_awareness. Also, the CDC has a lead website, and also the Pennsylvania State Department of Health at www.health.state.pa.us/lead. All right. Again, all this information is available, including this PowerPoint presentation. So, I'd like to thank you for listening to this presentation. Again, these are the leading household injuries that really cost thousands of people their lives each year, and pretty much many of these are preventable. There's always something that's unusual that may happen, but with a little thought and preparation, we may be able to drastically reduce the effects of these problems, especially the second leading cause of death, poisoning, where something like lead poisoning might be something that people don't even know that they're exposed to. So hopefully, armed with this awareness, people can better protect themselves.